It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series, which is off this weekend, but returns next weekend at Monmouth Park for the Monmouth Cup and the Wolf Hill Stakes. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. Obviously, I'm in the boring old studio. Ray is where he loves to be this time of year, old Del Mar, always with the Hawaiian shirt on. Ray, I know you were at opening day this week. How was it?
Well, first of all, I'm here in the Corona Beach House overlooking the paddock. On Wednesday, this room was packed. Today, they're getting ready for the afternoon races. 33,000 plus came here on Wednesday. Not the biggest crowd they've ever had. It used to be 40,000 plus was kind of a standard. But I'll tell you what, 33,000, as we learned at the Breeders' Cup, is a good number. You can still move around the place. It's not overcrowded. Handle on Wednesday was up 14%. That includes, of course, the off-track wagering where most of the handle comes from. It was a good day.
Well, this has kind of brought up what I wanted to talk about today in terms of facilities, because Del Mar, as you mentioned, kind of capped things for the Breeders' Cup. They increased the price of admission to get into the racetrack, which might cut back on some people showing up. But as you said, I've been there when it's packed, and it's uncomfortable, downright miserable sometimes. On Pacific Classic Day, for example, if there are too many people there. And Saratoga opens today, and they've got some new things going on. The new amenity called the Stretch, an area in the grandstand which is kind of fancy and isn't cheap to get into. I sense this as a trend at racetracks. Spending money on things to make the experience better, and also cutting back on the number of the people that can come in to make the experience better. So I guess that's the trend we're seeing.
Yeah, I want to take exception with one thing you said. You said it was downright miserable. I don't think I've ever been miserable in Del Mar. So uncomfortable, yes. Miserable, no. It's still Del Mar. But you're right. The admission charges for opening day was $15 just to get in, $30 I think for the clubhouse. Tables were $300 plus if you were lucky enough to get a table, and that sort of thing. And what they're doing at Saratoga, I think, is great. I think making for some more upscale experiences is a good thing with the new stretch.
Well, I think what you're talking about here is the audience. I know that some people will say, well, you need to focus on the betting product because it's mostly off-site. It's 80-90% simulcasting, and that's the handle that generates the revenue that drives the sport, and you need to focus on that, spend your money on that. And I agree in some respects with that, but I think you also have seen in many years here the downward trend of attendance at racetracks. And if you want to keep that, you don't want an empty grandstand with the horses running, just like you don't want an empty NFL stadium when the players are playing. And I think the way to do that is, especially with younger people, you've got to create an experience. And in this day and age, to me, it's all about targeted marketing. If you go online and you're on a website that has nothing to do with horse racing, I always get horse racing ads because I'm interested in horse racing. When I get the coupons in the mail from the grocery chain, they are very targeted to things I buy at the grocery store. So I don't think there's anything wrong with breaking up and targeting different segments of an audience.
Yeah, it's in the old days when people were happy to come to the track to gamble because it was a monopoly. 50 years ago, when they built many of the racetracks in America today, horse racing was the only thing you could gamble on unless you went to Las Vegas. Today, there are so many other options. It's not just about gambling. So, Saratoga is a beautiful old historic setting. I think what they've done with it by putting in the new the stretch, they've got a new bar up there. There's boxes. There's individual seats. It's a higher end experience, and that's what more people are looking for when they go out. It's the old ways don't really appeal that much anymore. If you want to just gamble, you can stay home and bet online, or you can play the lottery. You can go to any number of places that have slot machines. So you want to get people to come here for the experience. Hope they'll gamble, but you have to charge them a lot of money too. It's not cheap to sit in the new section at Saratoga. It's not like getting a grandstand seat.
Yeah, and again, I think it's okay to segment the audience and do different things for different parts of the audience. The simulcasting folks, you want to look at takeout and do things that will make them happy, which is totally different than the audience that's going to be showing up with their fancy outfits and hats and just wanting a good time. They're going to take a lot of selfies. They're not going to bet a lot of money. I think the handle per capita on Wednesday at Del Mar was about $100 on track. That's not really a ton of money. On other days, you'll see it go up because you're getting the more serious players in there. But on opening day, you get that kind of audience that's going to show up on the big days and have all the outfits on. I mean, take a look at NASCAR. There's a warning sign there. NASCAR is having a big problem right now in terms of attendance and viewership, and I think some of it has to do with their racetracks are not very up to date. They still look like they did 25 years ago. They still have the same lack of amenities, and young people don't like that. Right.
Yeah. I mentioned Saratoga's added the new addition, the stretch. Del Mar is one of the newer racetracks. The rebuilding of the grandstand took place in the early 1990s, which makes it 25, 26 years old now. That's not new, but at least when they built it, there were suites, there were outdoor restaurants, which are perfect for the setting here. Churchill Downs has done a fantastic job upgrading its facility, and they've done it for 2 days of the year pretty much, or if they get a Breeders' Cup for 4 days of the year. But the racetracks that have not changed, that have not done anything to upgrade their facilities, are the ones that are really struggling.
Yeah, and I think more of the tracks that are the prominent ones in the country are making that shift. We've already seen what Gulfstream Park has done. Laurel Park is making making renovations to create a retail and dining and destination experience. Belmont Park is going to be doing some of those same things when the New York Islanders arena comes in. And so, I mean, I think the sport is investing a lot of money in the on-track experience. The question is that a wise investment looking down the road? Do you think so?
Well, the old ways weren't working. Gulfstream Park is another example of a track. They totally tore down a traditional old grandstand that had one pretty small dining room in the turf club, and they made this huge restaurant. Actually 2 floors of restaurants, fewer traditional outdoor seats, but more good experiences. And the LA Times had an interview earlier this week with Belinda Stronach of the Stronach Group, and that's what she talked about. Is we've got to appeal to people who are not traditional racing fans, because let's face it, the traditional racing fans are getting older, and we need to replace them with people that maybe have a different outlook on what a day at the races is supposed to be.
And when it comes to even the traditional race fan, I still think racetracks could do a better job in terms of the amenities that they provide. For example, good Wi-Fi, HD broadcasting, and I really, it drives me crazy when they get petty and they cut off the signals of other ADWs that you might be using. The money is still coming to your track. I think it's unwise to be so petty about that kind of stuff, and it turns me off when I go to a racetrack and I want to go to this website and they've got it blocked. To me, that's just ridiculous, and it turns me off, and it makes me not want to come back to that particular track.
Well, there's of course there's ways around that. You don't have to use Wi-Fi. You can just use your cell signal, and so they think they may be keeping people from using a rival ADW company, but what they're really doing is making their customers a little unhappy. So I think you're right that those issues need to be rethought through.
Well, we have a poll on the website about this subject. Is it wise investment? Is it a wise investment for racetracks to continue spending money to enhance the on-track experience, the upscale experience of racing in a day and age when a lot of the money comes from off-site in terms of the wagering? Take the poll on our website at paulickreport.com. All right, Ray, they're off this week, but the match series comes back next weekend. It's kind of cool that, that's Haskell weekend, and that seems to be one of the themes of the match series, is to be tied into big days.
Yeah, they did it last week. Parks had a couple of big races last weekend, and they're doing it with the Haskell. They're piggybacking onto big days. And we talked about facilities changing, and I think racing schedules are changing too, to stockpile more big races on one day versus having the race of the week, because events are what drives younger people, especially, I think, to come to the races.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show presented by the Match Series. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.